Neon jumps. They're a frame-perfect movement tech from Mega Man X2 and X3, which provides the utility of double and triple jumps. Normally, firing fully charged busters on the ground results in X being forced into a locked position, unable to move until the animation's completed, but Neons bypass this restriction. We'll be using X3 for both demonstration and examples. While Neons are useful in X2, they're more prominent in X3 for both casual and high-level gameplay. This video is meant to be as simple as possible to grasp the tech, so I won't overwhelm you with any complicated terminology. To perform what's called normal neons or press neons, you must release the first shot of a grade 3 or higher charge. When you've met the obstacle or platforming section that requires the double jump, air dash, or up dash, then at the peak of your dash or close to it, press both the jump and shoot buttons at the same time on this same frame. You can now perform another air or up dash after your double jump. To perform what's considered a double neon or release neon, maintain your first charge this time, don't release it yet. And just like press neons, begin your dash, and right at its peak, quickly slide your finger from the shoot button to the jump button. Then from there, you can dash again. But this time, you still have your second charge shot. It's here where you dash again, then perform a press neon for a triple jumping experience. That's step 1 of learning neon jumping though, because just knowing how to neon isn't enough to begin doing them consistently. I'm here with step 2 to help reduce the amount of time you may need to practice them. Unless you're an aspiring speedrunner, I'm sure the idea of slaving hours, days, or even weeks away just to use some cool trick casually doesn't sound very appealing. So I'll be showing you some input techniques on the controller, but first, let's get some basic tips out of the way. 1. Practice with up dash neons first. They're easier to do than normal air dash neons because the slow wind up animation actually gives you some time to physically and mentally prep for the inputs. Once you're used to the timing of the execution, then work on your air dash neons. 2. Remap your controls. The L button for dash is a popular remap decision because of it being so close to your D-pad. Ultimately, this depends on your controller, which version of the games you're playing, I'll get into that later, whether you're speedrunning or casually playing, and your own personal preference. But neons are certainly much easier with your dash map to L, and your weapon swaps change to whatever other buttons you feel are comfortable for quickness. This can ruin the default comfort of L and R for switching weapons, but I have a very simple solution for that if you want to stay in the default control scheme. I'll explain what that is when it's relevant, so let's move on to the first technique I'll teach. I'll switch to my hand cam for a bit of a more focused position, then swap over to live demonstration. So let's get you familiarized with press neons. As you can see, I'm doing them pretty consistently. I'll probably put my button mappings on screen somewhere just to save myself some words, but yeah, I'm normally a default control scheme player in Mega Man games, but for X2 and X3 specifically, I find that L dashing is a lot more easier compared to the default control scheme. The first trick I'll show you is what I'd like to call the even thumb press. I'm not sure if the camera is showing this pretty well, but you want to have your thumb positioned on the controller in a way that will guarantee both buttons will press at the same time. If you've got average size to fat ass thumbs, you're in luck. You don't need too much precision. If you got skinny ass thumbs, well, shit, but it's not the end of the world, okay? Move your thumb enough to where it's completely obstructing the Y button, but align the center of your fingernail plate with the button. By doing so, the center of your thumb will always station comfortably between the buttons, providing an even dual press no matter how awkwardly you press it. So watch carefully as I do a press neon with the ETP technique. Actually, let me hold my arm out a bit longer so you can see the whole controller. So let me do that again, and I'm dashing with L, just remember that. And if you couldn't see because my hand was blocking it, this is another reason why the ETP is good, because you can use the base of your thumb to jump and you'll still be in position. So whenever you see me pressing down like that, I'm jumping. But when it's time to do the ETP, I kind of ease off both buttons and then I just kind of slam them when it's time to do the neon. So, like I said, I'm going to do that again. Full view. And let's do the up dash for good measure. While this is a frame perfect technique, neons are a lot more lenient than they let on. You can absolutely neon jump at any point during the dash, so long as your fingers stay on the L button and D-pad. Take a look at the current animation you see on screen. It's a visual indication that you're out of the window of opportunity to execute the neon jump, as this is X beginning to return to a neutral position. You've got some slight leniency with the first few frames of X's completed dash, but anywhere beyond this closes that window. You want to apply the ETP technique at any point during the dash animation itself, but you want to extend the dash as much as you can to get the maximum vertical or horizontal height. But for the sake of practice and getting used to the timing, just start off with ETPing at your earliest convenience. Then, when you're used to the timing, get more bold with each progression at your own pace. Then eventually, edge it out right before the last frame of the dash animation. Knowing this ahead of time would have saved me countless hours of practice. Next technique will have you covered on release neons, or the double neon. This is the neon where you need to maintain your first charge so you can do this triple jump goodness. From the explanation I gave you from the beginning, I'd imagine the inputs for release neon sounds way too timing sensitive. And you'd be right about that. It's really hard to do for a beginner, since the game still has to register it as 2 button presses at the same time. That's why the right speed at the right tempo is required to slide in between both buttons. But if you're consistently failing release neons, it's because you're either sliding your thumb from Y to B too slow, or too fast, or you're not trying to slide at all and you're trying to press B after release. Unless you're a robot or something, that ain't gonna work. Sliding is key. See, this is what it looks like when you do it too slow. X will just plummet to his doom like that every time. Now this is what it looks like when you slide too fast. Yeah, no, don't do your neons like this. It's like you're scrolling on a touchscreen. No touchscreen scrollers, no, bad. This ain't your smartphone. Your finger has to stay on B, and flicking it like this will often cause your thumb to slide off the button entirely, or you're going too fast that you're bypassing the speed of a single frame, which is, yes, that's very possible to do. So edge sliding is the trick that I'm going to show you now. If you want to do release neons easier, don't actually situate your entire thumb on the shoot button. Hold it as close to the edge as possible, to the point where you're touching the B button, but you're not actually pressing it. This is kind of like to prep for it. So let me give you a bit of a demonstration first. So pay attention to my fingers. I'm as close to the edge as possible. So when I'm ready to do my double jump, then I'll be pressing down. I'll kind of rev it back. So let's try it. So notice when I did that, I kind of clenched my thumb into like a 90-degree angle during my slide. This is to ensure that your button will stay on B and it won't slide off. Even if your fingers start getting a little sweaty, this is kind of like to safeguard that. Now bear with me as if this damn camera wants to focus. Now bear with me as I use a weird analogy here to sort of compare the speed required to do the edge slide. Sliding your thumb is like using the same speed you use to rev up a chainsaw or a lawnmower. It's a fast and controlled motion, one that's not too fast where you'll end up hurting yourself or damaging the cord while you're revving up. So yeah, I'm just gonna do a few more demonstrations with neons, and I'm also going to do a full double neon with the press neons too, just to show you the true motion and both techniques working in unison. Now let's do some up dashes. Now see, notice how I'm actually dashing the highest I can. X will travel further if you delay it as much as you can. You can definitely center your thumb on Y if it's more comfortable for you, but you'd have to adjust your sliding speed accordingly. But I find that edging the button makes executing this much easier. And for the most part, you're practicing to incorporate this motion into your muscle memory. But this is all with the dash button mapped to L. If you're loyal to default controls and the comfort they provide for certain perks, weapon hot swapping was designed with L and R in mind after all. Let's pivot back to what I said earlier. And that little trick is called using the command dash. Yes, that dreadful thing. For those who don't know, double tapping the D-pad in the direction that you wish to dash will trigger a dash without needing to press the A button. Because you're holding the D-pad after the second tap, it's registering as a full-length hold of the A button until you release it. Think of the command dash as a shortcut that relieves your thumbs of a little busy work. So not only will this free up your right thumb for the extra button press, but you've got neon jumping comfort on par with L-dash neons. Hell, if you're well practiced, this is even potentially the most appealing option because of the the aforementioned perks of hot swapping more comfortably. If you're a speedrunner or you've mastered the entire special weapon arsenal, the importance of leaving L and R alone for them cannot be understated. Having buttons mapped to the default makes silly quick kills like the one on the Neon Tiger mini boss a little less stressful. But remember that it's all personal preference in the end. You can absolutely neon jump well with default without command dash, with enough practice. You just have to weigh the pros and cons of each option that you have, and I personally don't believe there's an objective answer there. I can make a whole video about this alone. I'm all about everyone just exploring their options available, then go for the control scheme that best fits their unique comfort. I personally find L more comfortable with neons, but I think I'll eventually go back to default controls at some point for reasons that I won't divulge today. If you're more of a visual learner and my explanations aren't quite clicking, sometimes just watching the handiwork alone works perfectly. So I'll have another close-up view of my hands and you can just imitate the motions of my thumb work. If you're still not getting it yet, it's okay. This is not a beginner level tech to begin with, so don't beat yourself up over it. You'll get the hang of the timing of both press and release neons if you stay consistent with your practice. It's also important to just breathe. Your execution of neons will suffer as well if you're not calm and collected behind the controller. A lot of nervous, uncontrollable energy accompanied by unnecessary movement will only stress you out and make your hands super sweaty and slippery. Grip the controller with some confidence and let only your fingers dance on the buttons. I have to stress that neon jumping is much better to perform either on original hardware, an emulator, or the PS2 collection. Neons are very sensitive to input lag. This is unfortunate because most accessible versions of the X series are the Legacy collections, which are the worst ports in terms of input latency. I believe the PC version of the Legacy collection is the least laggy of all platforms, with Switch being right behind it. If you're on PS4 though, just wow. Jesus Christ, you poor thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if those who've told me that they aren't good at neons are actually being hindered by Capcom's sloppiness in terms of latency and even potentially their own TV or monitor. HD TVs are notorious for not being optimized for gaming, and not every TV has a game mode to help reduce it. So that just leaves you with a few options, because yes, I really don't recommend you play Legacy in general if you can help it. The PS1 Saturn version of X3 is used on the PS2 X collection. This is actually a pretty great alternative to play, and you can do neon quite comfortably on this version. Except this collection, and by extension the PS1 Saturn version itself, isn't perfect either. It's got its issues, but input lag isn't one of them, thankfully. Wall kicking and other mechanics work a bit differently in that version, but if you're casual, you probably won't care about the nitpicky stuff. You can find the thing on eBay or Amazon for dirt cheap, then use the disc to emulate it on PC if you don't have a PS2. The original experience on the SNES is best though, but oh my god. The retro market is fucking ludicrous right now, so I really wouldn't recommend getting into that, especially for just one or two damn games. But if you want, you can get this nifty little device called a Mayflash SNES adapter for the PC. If you just want to go the cheapest route possible with the original SNES experience, do what you gotta do, you know damn well what I'm talking about. Then this adapter will let you use any SNES controller on your system as if it were an Xbox 360 controller. Now there's one more important thing I need to briefly discuss, and after this, go on and practice to your heart's content. But I just want to say, take your time and just have fun. Neon jumping may seem like it's just a technique only for speedrunners and the like, but tech is tech. This technique is useful for many casual conveniences, such as getting the body armor piece early on in Catfish's stage, reducing the amount of revisits in a 100% route. No matter who you are or your skill level, if you see a cool technique you'd like to learn, but mentally tell yourself, I can't do that, then yeah, you can't. Once that mental block is placed there, it's a form of self-sabotage. You are what you say you are. That's why downplaying yourself never helps. You can absolutely learn how to do everything I taught you here today, even if you're only going to use it a few times. Ever since 2020, when my channel finally got noticed by the algorithm, I've received numerous self-deprecating comments. I may not always respond to every comment I get these days, but I definitely read just about every one of them. And I've seen a common thing with these types of comments: an appreciation for the art of good gameplay and a yearning to learn how to do what they just watched, but immediately become discouraged and demoralized because of a skill barrier. And I'm here to tell you, don't chase perfection. I'm not perfect or the best to myself. My life doesn't revolve around these games, and I've only got decent at them due to passive time invested in them. So you don't have to learn stuff like this in one go, and you certainly don't need to do it to perfection. Mega Man games in general have a great reputation for replay value, so if you'd like to learn neon jumping or just get better in general, do it slowly. slowly. Anyone with responsibilities in life can't sit in front of a TV or monitor all day. So no, you don't have to spend all your time on one game to be decent in it. That's a lie. So with each new playthrough, just make it a point to get better, no matter how big or small the progress. Learning that simple skill of perseverance will aid you outside the game as well. I've made quite a bit of Mega Man and chill videos about this sort of topic, so I won't get too deep in there. Just do your best and stay chill.